Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to Kill Me Now. It's me, Judy Gold, and I cannot. I know sometimes I, say, I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. I have been dying to have this incredible human being on my podcast, who I met doing another podcast. As Trump says about Kim Jong-un, we fell in love. And he hasn't written me a love letter yet, but all right, author of 10 books. I'm just going to name some of them. Jesus, A Pilgrimage, The Jesuit Guide, Building a Bridge, which is very important, building a bridge. My Life with the Saints, and Between Heaven and Mirth, which is the best title, and then there's more. I have to thank God that he is alive, well, and just follow him, ladies and gentlemen, Father James Martin. Woo!
Yay!
I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you too.
Oh, you're the
that
best.
Was the greatest intro ever.
It was. I
Yeah,
just
it
am
was.
so thankful for you.
Thank you. Ditto.
No,
Ditto.
see, you're just
No,
because
I know,
you're
I
a
do love
priest.
you.
You're like being
No,
nice,
I
but
do love
I'm
you.
like a miserable person.
But you left out that I'm the most Jewish Jesuit.
Oh yes.
Yes.
So when we met, we did this podcast called Unorthodox, where they have a Jew and and the non-Jew of the week, and you were the non-Jew of the week.
Mhm.
But you're very Jewy.
I know. I wanted to be not only Jew of the week, but Goy of the month.
That's good.
Yeah, I know, but sadly.
Do you like garbanzo beans? Goya. Hey.
Is that Goyisha?
No, it's Goya makes the garbanzo.
Oh, right. All right. I know. Like right over my head. I'm not a
So what
comedian.
happened now? You just went into the priesthood and now you've, forgotten all these stupid jokes?
Well, I went into the priesthood after. Boy, it's hot in here, isn't it?
I know.
Hot as
I'm
hell.
sorry.
I'm gonna take my collar off.
Yep, he took his collar off.
Collar off.
Hot.
I'm
Hot.
schwitzing.
You can ring the bell
Okay,
too.
good.
Okay.
No, I went to the University of Pennsylvania.
Wait, I know. All right. We can't go there
we
yet.
can't go there? Okay.
Yeah.
What was the original question?
Well, I
I
just
joined the Jesuits.
But you're still so you know everything about pop culture. You live in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying this is about Catholicism, but I know a lot of people who are clergy and are living in another world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a Jesuit priest, and one of our goals and mottos is finding God in all things. That includes in pop culture and in
Right.
the world. And I work in a Catholic magazine in New York City, so it's
Right.
kind of hard. You go on the subway every day. It's hard not to kind of
Right. See
bump
what's
into
going
the
on.
world.
Wait,
yeah.
do people say to you, "You take the subway
Yes.
all the time"?
That's a
like
quote.
I get that all the time. Wait, you take the subway?
It's a
You
quote.
take the bus? Yeah, I don't have a driver.
I know. Someone came up to me and said, "That's the quote." Oh my gosh, Father Martin, do you take the subway? I can't believe it. And I said, "Well, how do you think I get around?"
Right.
I don't know, like a limousine. And I said, I also take a vow of poverty too, and so
Right.
I'm on the subway. But sometimes it's funny because people, I've had people ask me to hear their confession on the subway,
Right.
which is a little strange.
And no curtain.
Well, and also the other thing, on the subway, no one cares anyway. So
Right.
you can say anything.
Right.
And I hear it. And then people, you can see them like leaning in.
Right. All right, I have to ask you a question.
Yes,
Do you give money to every homeless person you see?
I do. My rule is if I have it, I give it. That's my rule.
You know,
And I try
I-
to talk to them too.
Right. I try to. I feel so guilty if I don't give, but sometimes I look and they have like nicer clothes than me. And you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah, here's my thing is, what are they going to use it for? And I
right.
always
That's
figure-
what I think
But I
about
always
too.
figure, look, even if they don't, even if they use my dollar for drinks, then
Right.
that'll save them some other money that they can use for food. Or I just buy them a sandwich.
Yeah,
You know?
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've said, "Here, do you want me to buy something
Yeah.
in there?" And then they get all like, "No, I want it on toasted
know,
white
it's so
bread,
funny.
light mayo."
But you know what? For every good deed you do, this
Yeah.
is the old you're building your house in heaven. Did you know this this tradition that for every good deed you do, you have like a little brick that's up there in heaven.
Okay.
And when you get up there, the more bricks you have, the bigger your house will be.
I'm gonna have a big house.
You will have a big
but
house, yeah.
we don't believe in that.
Well, here's
The
my
Jews.
here's my one sort
Jews.
of
Yeah.
yay Jews. Here's my one funny, annoying homeless person story. So there was a guy in our street outside of our Jesuit community, which we used to be on 56 and 6. And this poor guy was always there, and I would always give him money. And one day I had this big
Chunka. Yeah.
chunk, like lots of coin and stuff in my room in like a little bag. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring it to the bank, and whatever it is, I'm going to give it to him. you
Right.
know, try to be holy. So I go to the bank. It's $80.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be so happy. So I pass him and I say, here you go. And I give him $80, puts it in his pocket, doesn't even say thank you.
No way.
And I thought, all right, you know what? I'm going to move to some other homeless
Right,
guy
right,
next
right.
time. Yeah. Yeah, it was a little much.
Isn't that horrible?
Well, you know, I mean, these poor people. I worked
God,
with homeless
you're
people as
so
a
good.
well. I worked with homeless people as a novice, and you know, a lot of them are mentally.
Yes, I
disturbed.
know.
So, but you know, I did my good deed. So, God,
oh, please. You're
God-
full of good deeds.
God saw it.
Okay. Everywhere I look, because I know you grew up in Pennsylvania. Wait, in Plymouth Meeting,
Wow, you really did your
Pennsylvania.
homework.
Yes, but you were born in Philly.
Yes.
And then you grew up in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find anything about. I know that your family was not religious.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of just a regular. They weren't rich. Just a
Yeah,
quote
regular.
unquote
Yeah.
normal.
Mhm.
I know you were on the school newspaper.
Boy, you really did your homework.
Well, 'cause I love you.
Yeah, but it's sometimes I go on shows, and my favorite show was I was on a TV show once, and I did this book, Jesus: A Pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And the interviewer actually held it up. It says Jesus on the cover, and he goes,
Yeah.
she said, "So what's the book about?" And
No
I was-
way.
Yeah, and it was very hard for me not to be funny and say, Jesus. There you go. He's Jewish.
Yeah, I just I have been on so many interviews where they're like, "So, what made you start to?" And it's like, click my name.
I know.
It's like, do your research because the interview's better.
I know.
And there's some questions they ask. I can't take it. It gives me like a in my stomach.
Here's a nice comedian reference for you. I like to watch old Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah,
clips.
yeah,
There was one time where he was on Carson.
yeah.
And Johnny Carson said, "So you have a new movie coming out, and what's it called?" And Rodney Dangerfield says, "Thanks for being so prepared."
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up and like in grammar, like do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister, Carolyn, and
Uh-huh.
we grew up in Plymouth Meeting, which is
Right.
a suburb outside of Philly. And yeah, it wasn't super. You know, my family's Catholic.
Right.
First Holy Communion, confirmation.
Right, you
went to
did all
Mass.
the bar mitzvahs.
But
Yeah.
and bat mitzvahs.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I heard there was a plural too that I don't know.
Bas. No, mitzvot. B'nai mitzvah.
There you go.
B'nai
Ding.
mitzvah. Yeah,
Most of my friends growing up were Jewish,
right.
so I went to.
That's what I was wondering. Like this was a Jewy area. You were Catholic.
Yeah, and I
but
just-
no one gave a shit.
No.
Oh, I cursed in front of him.
No,
Yeah.
no, and I
Like
mean,
that's what I grew up. I had my neighbors were Catholic. It's like no one
Yeah,
taught. We
no
were
one-
like they were like friends.
But the irony was, I didn't know any kids that went to Catholic school,
right?
which was weird. So
Did
I
you? You
just-
didn't go to Catholic
No.
school,
No, I went to public everything, public elementary school, junior high school, high
Right.
school, and yeah. So I always say I probably went to 15 bar and bat mitzvahs.
Wow, that's a lot of
more-
money.
Yes, right. Yes, that's right. And no first communion parties, no confirmation
Right.
parties, no. So
Were
when
they okay? Were they lavish?
some of them were.
Because you would have loved my mother, but she was like, it's not about the party. It's about, and so we had the nerdy, like my brother for his bar mitzvah,
Did you clink that because your brother's Jewish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And bar mitzvah. He went, we just had brunch at our house afterwards.
Wow.
Then my sister, they had dessert after her bat mitzvah. And for me, I had the biggest one. They had dinner before.
Oh no,
and
ours
dessert
were lavish.
afterwards. And then, but I would go to these ones where you had to put on a long gown. It was at like a social club.
Those are all the ones I went to. Like,
you would've liked-
special.
Yeah.
The one I remember, Gary Kaufman's bar mitzvah had like ice cream sundaes and cotton candy.
Right.
He wore, I think, a purple tux.
Oh yeah. With the
or
purple,
yellow.
with
I
the
think
bow
either
tie
purple or yellow,
and the yarmulkes. They would match the yarmulkes,
which we were allowed to keep. Which I was
yes,
very happy.
I have a lot of them.
So yeah, I got to know that whole culture, and they were all just part of my world.
Right.
And then when I got to Penn,
It was more a part of your. You went to Morton.
I did, and it was all just part of the environment. And I often say that it wasn't that some of my best friends were Jewish. It was like all of my best friends were Jewish. And it was funny. And when I said this last time that I met you, whenever I speak to Jewish audiences, I always apologize in the beginning because I say I am so comfortable in this environment that I make jokes, and so don't think that they're.
But they like that. We like the jokes.
But as long as people know that,
that you're Jewish,
like, very Jewish.
So, what did your parents do?
My dad was in business. He worked for a pharmaceutical company. My mom was a substitute French teacher. Or since it's Philly, we say substitute.
Right, substitute
French teacher and homemaker. And she's still alive. She's 87. And
God bless her.
God bless her. Yeah, and so it was a very normal family. And they were very surprised. My joke is they were very surprised when I entered the Jesuits, and people say to me, what was the most common thing people said when you entered the Jesuits? And this is true. And the most common thing people said was Mazel Tov.
Oh, that's
Interestingly, many of my Jewish friends' parents were the ones who were the most supportive.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? I have a good friend, Rob Schlackman. Great.
I mean, that is so Jewish. Schlackman.
From Sharon, Mass.
Jewy or Jewy.
Excuse me.
From Newton.
From Newton.
Oh, that is like,
He went to, I think, Newton, he'll kill me, Newton South.
Oh.
Which we used to call Olivia Newton South. His parents, Ellie and Jerry, great people. They were so supportive.
Schlackman.
Well, yes, exactly.
Ellie Schlackman. We want to thank Ellie Schlackman for the kadoosh after the
and the kugel. She made a great kugel.
Really?
Can I tell you my Seder story? Which I think I've told you before.
Yes.
So when I was in theology in Boston, Rob invited me back to his parents' house. Right?
Yeah.
To Ellie and Jer's house.
Right.
For
Oh my God,
Seder.
this is so many Jew bells. I love it.
For a
Seder.
Seder.
Yes.
So we're sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'm right in the middle of my Old Testament course.
Oh,
I know all this stuff.
Right.
So I know all about Moses and Aaron and Moses, Aaron, Miriam.
Yeah.
Everybody. And so, I'm at the Seder, and I've been to Seders before, and Mrs. Schlackman says to me, oh, by the way, why, she says to the table, why does this happen?
Yeah.
Why
is this night?
Well, no, not that, but some more
she's
general
asking
question.
you. Yeah.
She's asking the table, and I say, oh, well, because Moses, blah, 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 and Aaron, and she was like, oh, well, then why is X, Y, Z? And I said, oh, well, because, in the book of Exodus, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, thanks. And she turns to Rob, her son, my friend, and says, why don't you know as much about the faith as Jim does? And so I kept answering these questions. So after we left the Seder, we went out. I'll never forget this.
Yeah.
We went outside. We stepped outside of his door at his house, his parents' house, and Rob says to me, in words I'll never forget, "That is the last Seder I'm ever inviting you to."
Was it?
It was.
No.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Were you popular in high school? Like, were you a popular kid? What were you involved in?
I would say I was pretty popular. I was like president of the student government.
Oh, forget it.
I was like, someone described me, my college, my freshman year roommate, I told him what I did. I was in student government. I was in the newspaper. I was this. I was in the Honor Society. And he said, "Oh my God, I'm living with Archie Andrews." So that's kind
Yeah,
of,
right.
That's kind of who I was. Yeah.
And you never got into trouble?
No, not really. No.
Wow.
I mean, I in college, I mean, I smoked and drank and stuff like that. I know.
Oh my.
I know.
Yes.
I know. So, but not in high school. In high school, I
Right.
was really kind of squeaky clean.
And you got great grades.
Yes.
Were you like valedictorian?
Like number 1, number 2. Yeah, I was a good student in high school. But
Well,
then I
the
got
Jews must have been so pissed that you were like the valedictorian.
But then I got to Penn, and of course, you're with
Right.
every other
Right,
valedictorian.
right.
So I was.
Did you think of any? Where else did you get into college?
Where else did I get into college? My gosh, UVA.
Oh yeah, that's a great school.
Lafayette,
Right.
Lehigh,
Right.
Mostly in the area.
Right.
I can't remember where else I applied, but I really wanted to go to Wharton, the undergraduate school at Penn.
Right, because Trump went there. Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
why?
Yeah,
he
was
got in on his own merit
my
too.
idol.
Yeah.
Although here's something you'd be interested in. Someone told me from Penn, and this is not very well known. He actually did not go to Wharton. He took courses at Wharton. That's the rumor I've heard at Penn.
Wow.
But they won't release.
Shocking.
They won't release his
yeah.
transcript. And they've said if Penn release, this is all rumor. But
Right.
If Penn releases it, he'll sue them or something like that.
Right.
But someone said no. He was in liberal arts college, but took courses at Wharton, which is different than enrolling.
Enrolling in Wharton.
So anyway, I went there.
Wait. So he lied?
Mm,
What? Oh my God.
shocking.
What?
I know. I know.
He's a liar. Okay.
There, you're back.
Thank you.
So
Wait, were you in the theater department? Did you do any plays, band?
No.
Athletics?
I was on the Humor magazine.
Oh.
Thank you. Which was run by Jewish people.
Yes.
In fact, I think on the masthead, one of the it was like art editor this.
Right.
I think there was something that said head Jew.
No way.
Yeah, on the masthead of the Punch Bowl Humor magazine.
Now, forget it. Now it would be like,
No, you couldn't do that.
suing and.
No. So so I was mainly focused on studies, study, party on the weekends,
Right.
smoke, get drunk, go to football games. Very small group of people. I didn't really participate in too many other activities, which I
Right.
lament. And also, I didn't take anything outside of business, which kind of sucks.
Right. Did you go to the prom?
In high school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All that
I
kind of
didn't
stuff.
go.
Oh,
My
really?
son just went last
Oh,
week.
that's nice.
Yeah, and my other son went, but
Did they
I
have
never.
Did they have a good time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
I mean,
Although proms these days, my little, he's not so little anymore. My 14-year-old nephew went, and I don't think they do
14?
Well, it's like an 8th grade prom.
oh, all right.
I don't think they do dates as much anymore.
No,
They all
it's
kinda
like
go.
yeah, and
This
there's
is
a
very
lot
stressful.
and it's very LGBTQ friendly. Like, no one gives
Because
a crap.
I think it was so stressful for people.
Well,
You
it
know,
was like, oh, are you going to the prom?
Right,
Yeah.
I
It was
know.
like Valentine's Day. It's
know.
like,
No,
oh, did you get a Valentine? It's like, oh, no, I'm 6 feet tall
I
and I'm
know.
13. No one's giving me a
But
Valentine.
look at you now.
I know, 6.
You showed them.
Yeah.
They
No,
all-
I did. That's what my mother used to say. Judith, they'll be paying to see you.
And they are, aren't they?
Yeah, well, some. So, you go to Wharton
Yes.
and you are a stellar student.
I did okay.
You did.
B, solid B.
That's good.
Yeah, I did okay. I studied my you-know-what off.
Yeah. And
my tuchus.
oh, I just love you.
Yes, toda.
So, oh, you can do it. So all right. So you're hanging around with the Jews,
Right.
And-
yes.
and there's no. I mean, did you go to church every weekend?
Yeah, occasionally.
Right.
I mean, maybe every other Sunday, but if I missed Sunday, I wasn't too upset.
Right.
And I was kind of like the token Catholic on the floor.
right.
Oh, what about the Pope? And what
Right.
about this? And I don't know. So,
Right.
And
And it wasn't like you were like knew every little detail about the religion.
No, though, as a college freshman at Penn,
Right.
I pretended as if I did.
Right.
Oh well,
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Right.
And we had those great like late night bull sessions, and can God create a stone so heavy
Right.
you can't lift? And I don't know. And endless until like 2, 3 in the morning with my agnostic friends and my
Right.
Jewish friends, and
But you were interested in.
I think so. I think more
Right.
intellectually.
Did you get your DNA done and find out if you're part Jewy?
Well, I'm very Mediterranean.
Oh, that's good. So you could have Jewy
I
in you.
probably do. Look at this nose.
I know. I was just looking at it,
They
going,
say a Roman nose. It's Roman all over your face.
right? Oh, that's funny.
Get it?
Yeah, because it's all over here. It's so big.
It's like big, but it's Roman.
Yeah.
So, but I was not particularly religious. That's definite.
Right.
That's for sure.
So you graduate Wharton and you get a job at GE.
Yes.
And
In New York.
In New York, it's a great paying job.
It is.
And your whole focus in life up until this point was, well, I have to go into business so I can make a lot of money.
Right.
Because that's what life is about, having a lot of money so that you can support yourself and,
Right. And not in a bad way. Not like But yeah, you gotta. My parents would say very sort of practically, which is true. Well, you got to get a job. So why wouldn't you go into business?
Right.
And we didn't really know anyone who was in kind of anything else.
Right.
I mean, like arts or
right.
So sure, we were fairly middle class, and so that's part of just kind of. Like supporting yourself and paying off your loan. So yeah, that's pretty much where I went into it. And GE was very well paying it.
Did you have your own room growing up?
I did.
Oh, all right, that's good.
Yes.
So, I'm just, I'm just
I've never asked that
fascinated. I know,
question.
but I'm fascinated by people's childhoods.
That's interesting. Yeah, ask me anything.
Because it's so what makes them
It
like.
is.
You didn't get teased or
Well, I mean, I think I did.
yeah,
when
but
I was
if you really got teased, you would be like, yes, it was.
no, it wasn't like that.
Yeah, I was like literally walk in the school and just for the rest of the
Really?
day, Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Because you were so tall.
so tall.
Well, that's sad.
I know, and I was just, I was dorky.
Kids
and,
are mean.
oh, so
Can be
mean. And then this is true. My mother used to tell me, Judith, ignore them. They're jealous. They wish they were that tall. Just they don't even exist. And then later on, that was my mother. And later on, one of my therapists said, wrong advice.
That's interesting.
But I feel
what
like
did the therapist say? What should what
you
your mother
you
say?
have this quick wit. You should have used your
Oh.
quick wit. But I was so
That's hard when you're.
I
young.
know, and I was so like beaten down, like, oh God, here I go. It's like when you go to a step and repeat, and people are like, you are, and you feel so humiliated. I was just humiliated every day.
No, it's
Which-
sad. And I
thank
think frankly, if you had used your humor, you would have been more of a target. In a
Right,
sense.
right. Yeah,
So,
I was
yeah.
just like, and ugh.
Yeah.
So you go to work at GE.
Mm-hmm.
You're making decent money.
Mm-hmm. Going out clubbing, having fun. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
But you notice that people are not treated that well there.
Eventually, like at the beginning, I was very happy. I
Right.
was, I was a yuppie. It was 1982, right?
Right.
And but then I sort of progressed in the organization. I moved to Connecticut, got some promotions. Yeah, and I started to realize, wow, I'm not crazy about
Right.
the way that the bosses are treating people. Not all of them, but we had since this is, your podcast, we had something called the asshole theory. At least I did, which was that the more of an asshole you were, the higher you went in the
Right.
organization.
Well, that's actually true.
Yeah. And so not with
showbiz.
everybody.
Yeah.
So it sort of bothered me seeing how unethical people were at times. And also I felt like a square peg in a round hole.
Right. So, also, I forgot to mention that I think it happened in college that your roommates decided what you would give up for Lent.
Yeah, you want to hear that story?
Yeah, and I love that because it really is because it really is saying, well, we noticed this about you. Instead of you picking it yourself, it
still continues.
right. I know. I love that.
My friend Rob Schlackman.
Rob.
He is great.
I love Rob.
You'll love this. He's great. He's also, by the way, he is 6'7".
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so here's a great story. So I'm like 5'9" or whatever, and you, in a sense, when you have a friend like that, you kind of cease to notice it.
Right.
So when we lived together after college in New York for 2 years, he was a great roommate. And so we got some pictures, and I said, well, hang them. And so I come home, and all the pictures are hung really high on the wall. And I said to Rob, what is wrong with you?
I know.
He said, what do you mean? And I said, they're supposed to be eye level. So he walks over to them. He's like, they're eye level.
Yeah, that's hilarious. My son's 6'8". But I noticed that I do that too. And then I'm like, oh no, it has to go lower. But it's like, it's so bad in the bathroom. The toilet seats are so low. And it's just, the world is not made for tall people.
Well, I found what was interesting was I would forget until I'd see each other like in a mirror or
Right.
something. But you just kind of
You're
forget, like,
right.
that's how he is.
Does he have kids? Rob
Yeah,
Schlackman?
and his wife is quite tall.
Really?
And their kid Daniel is extremely tall. And
Right.
He's played basketball.
Yeah, that's like my
Anyway,
son. But
yeah,
did you know
they're
that
great.
basketball coaches ask how tall the mother is?
Well, yeah, Andrea is quite tall.
And what's her maiden name?
Oh my gosh, Kier, I think.
No.
Yeah, no, but she was Catholic and now she's Jewish.
All right,
so.
she converted
Yeah,
for Rob Schlackman. Were you
Anyway.
mad at her? Were you like, no,
Oh,
don't go?
I love that whole family.
All right.
So
Okay, so
yeah,
you're
so
in
we're
the-
out drinking,
Right, at
and
GE.
Lent's coming up. Oh no, this is in college.
Oh, this right.
We're
Oh
out
God, I'm
drinking.
Judy.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We're out drinking. It's in college,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh, Lent's coming up. What's Lent? Blah blah blah."
How do you not know what Lent is?
Well, they're just asking. Well,
Right.
one of them didn't know we were decorating a Christmas tree, and they were like, "Where should I put the ornament?" I was like, "Wherever you want."
right. that's
So we're
funny.
out
Yeah.
at this pub, and I explain Lent, and they say, "Well, what's about like giving this stuff up?" And I said, "Oh, well, you give up something, blah blah blah." Well, who decides that? And I said, "Well, I decide it." And they said very reasonably, well, "What the hell kind of a sacrifice is that?"
Right.
We should decide. And I was like, "Oh, well, what should I give up?" And at the time, I was really hooked on orange soda. Like,
Right.
Orange soda and those snowballs, those little cakes.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, "That's what you should give up." That was actually hard. And so
The
since
snowball.
then,
Wait,
it was
I don't
hard.
think they were kosher. The snowballs.
They were trafe, or
Yeah, I mean, if they had animal fat,
thank you.
if they had animal fat or gelatin in it,
Yeah, but I could eat them.
right? But Twinkies, like we couldn't eat Twinkies.
Oh,
I know,
sad.
annoying. No Oreos, high drugs.
Sad.
I know. Go
Great sacrifice. So,
orange soda and snowballs.
for the next 4 years, they would tell me what to give up, and I mean, I would do other regular sacrifices.
So did you do the orange soda? I
So I
read
gave
that
up.
you used it to stay
keep me-
awake.
Yeah, like no dose.
So, remember no dose?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God! Someone told me yesterday. I said, "Oh, your hair color's really nice," and he said, "I put sun in my hair and went to the beach." And I was like, "Sun in? That's like my people."
Do they even make that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like I'm always surprised when I see Tab.
I know.
What's the other one? Which is the grapefruit one? Is that Tab?
Oh,
No,
Fresca. Yes.
Do they make it?
Yes.
So amazing.
I know.
So anyway, since then, Rob has called me every Ash Wednesday morning, which
Yeah.
is when Lent starts.
Right.
And he gives me it has settled down to, let me get this straight, a food, a spice, and a candy. And they're funny.
A spice. Yeah, you had to give up oregano.
Or
Yeah.
cardamom or something.
Oh.
And so he and Andrea and Daniel now participate, and I get a phone
That's
call.
so great.
And you know what I do? I really do try to, I mean, it's funny, but because it's from the outside, like it's not coming from me, I do try to refrain from, doing that. And sometimes it's hard. So it'll be like,
I bet.
It'll be like tarragon. I was like, and Rob said, that means no béarnaise sauce.
Oh. He probably
So it's
gets
fun.
off on it.
He loves doing it.
Yeah.
He's very funny.
This week's episode of It's Judy's Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself, you can process, and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to betterhelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is gratitude month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
Back to GE. You're at GE. You know, you're seeing the hierarchy treat the, general population there like crap.
At times, I would say.
And at one point, your boss calls you in her office and calls you a liar.
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
What did she say you lied about?
It was very complicated.
What was her name? Was she?
Oh, I don't want to say.
Oh, all right, is a member of the tribe?
No.
Oh, thank God.
MOT, as we said at Penn.
Yeah.
No, it was very complicated, but basically, I was working in HR at the time. I have to reconstruct this.
Yeah.
And I contacted someone. Someone contacted me for a job that was open. I'm trying to remember this. And the protocol was to call the person's manager and say, are they free to interview for this job? Okay. So I called the manager, who was like a bigwig. And the person interviewed for the job. And the manager called my manager and said he never asked me if he could interview for the job, which he was lying to my manager about me because for some reason he wanted to say that this guy never asked him. So my manager came in and said, and she sort of was ambushing me. Did you ask Mike, the guy's name was, I still remember his name, if so-and-so could interview for that job? And I said, yeah, I called him, and Mike was way high up. Uh-huh. And she goes, you're a liar. He called me and he said, you never told him that. And I said, well, why would I lie about that? You're a liar. I won't have liars working for me. And
no way.
It's pretty awful. And I thought, why am I working here?
And also, you don't call someone a liar.
No, it was really.
I'm not having liars work for me.
It was bizarre. That was kind of low key.
But you had been thinking all along, this is so unfulfilling. This is so.
It made it easier.
Right.
Yeah. And so. I mean, it made it easier to think about leaving. And it was also the way I saw women treated.
Right.
Because I was in HR, I went from finance to HR. I was sort of behind a lot of behind closed doors meetings that they would say. And I would hear what managers would say. This is in the 80s about women.
Right.
So one guy said there was a very sort of talented woman, probably in her 30s. And she wasn't moving ahead as quickly as she had hoped. And so I went to the manager. And you know what he said to me? To the HR person, all she needs is a good.
No way.
And I just said.
But
And I said to him, so here I am. I'm 27, 25.
Right.
And I'm with this 50-year-old executive who's just used this obscenity, but has also said that about, his employee. And I said, you better not let her hear that. You better not say that outside the office. That's
he would be.
That's as much as I could say.
Hashtag me, too.
Unbelievable.
But they do that. I think they do that. They do that in show business too. You audition. I've heard friends of mine who are casting people say, you can't even imagine. But you know what I don't understand? And this is truly it. I talked to Isaac Mizrahi about this, that he is a gay man who adores women, puts them on a pedestal. And I know of a very large percentage of straight men who, disparage women on a daily basis, but there's also a certain population of gay men who do the same thing. And I'm thinking, when I hear a story like that, and when I look at these politicians and I think, you have daughters. How can you speak like that? You have a mother and daughters.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is sometimes it's they're trying to be macho or I don't know, or just rude, or maybe they're just mean. I think that's a word that we need to kind of resurrect.
Right.
They're just mean.
Yeah.
And so I saw this and I saw stuff like that. And not everybody at GE was like that, and there were and I have friends who are still at GE and they're doing great. But I saw enough of it that I just thought I don't want to work here. And it was also stressful in terms of the hours and all this. And so
did you do? So you would work there, but did you go to church? Were you starting to go back to church,
I moved from New York to Connecticut. So I moved from
where in Connecticut?
Stamford, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Fancy.
Yeah. Yes. And I just started to get more and more dissatisfied. And so I was kind of ready for something to happen, but I didn't know what it was going to be.
So you go to your psychologist.
Well, first I turn on the TV and I see
Oh,
a
right.
documentary. Yeah.
God, I had that
here. I can't believe you forgot that.
I know I had it. We put on the PBS. It was on PBS.
Very good. I'm really impressed. Truly,
Oh,
I'm really
thank
impressed
you.
with your research.
I love you.
No, you are. You're wonderful. Toda.
Thank you.
Ding, Bavakasha is the correct response.
Yes, Bavakasha.
Mm-hmm. So I turn on the TV one night. I'm kind of, I come home and I'm sort of miserable. And there's a documentary about a trap.
Well, that's very Jewish. All right, go ahead.
Which part?
Coming home and being miserable.
That's funny. I think you meant PBS.
Yeah.
Channel 13.
Yeah.
They have the greatest shows.
I know.
And
at that time, of course.
time,
Yeah.
There was a documentary about a Trappist monk named Thomas Merton.
Yes.
And he
gave it all up.
Gave it all up and entered a monastery. And I tell you, Judy, I looked at that show and I just thought, that's it. That's just so beautiful. And I didn't know anything about a monastery, the Trappist or anything, or the priesthood, but it just seems so much more attractive than my life. And as I say, as we say, this is not to get too religious, but this is how God works. God works through our desires, kind of moving us interiorly. And I went out and bought his autobiography, The 7-Story Mountain, and I just said, this is what I want to do. And then...
But then you had to plan it out.
I did. It was very strange because... maybe you've experienced this. I don't know what you're, in terms of like being a comedian. When you start to think about these things, you start to say, well, I can't do that. That's crazy.
Right.
How could I possibly do that? But you're curious about it and you're interested in it. And I read more and more about him and I started to think about it. And I asked my parish priest and he said, well, you should talk to the Jesuits because they're right up the street at Fairfield University. I talked to them and then I withdrew. Then I just said, I can't do this. This is crazy. Like it would be like me joining the circus or being an opera star or something. I can't do it. And then I started to go to a psychologist because I was getting more and more stressed.
Jewish?
Do you know what his name was?
What?
I kid you not. His name was Dr. Chachki.
No way.
Yeah.
Like a tchotchke? Look at the nice tchotchke.
I don't know if he's still out there. I know.
That's the best name.
It's either Chachka or Chachki or
right.
My friends thought it was hysterical.
Yeah.
And
was he tiny?
He was pretty petite. He was a great guy. First time I went to a psychologist. And basically the question was, this took like a year or two. And the way to think about it is I'm getting more and more interested in kind of religious life, like reading all these books and going to church more, less and less interested in GE, but not knowing what I'm supposed to do. And he asked me the question, which changed my life, which was, he said, well, why are you at GE? And I said, well, I mean, I don't know what else I would do. And I have a Wharton degree and you got to go to business and I got a good job. And I felt so trapped. And he said, well, what would you do if you could do anything you wanted to do? And I said, I'd be a Jesuit. And he said, well, why don't you? And truly, it was like the scales fell from my eyes.
That is.
Like St. Paul.
Oh.
And I thought, yeah, why don't I? What am I doing here? And it was just the freedom to be able to say, I want to do something that I enjoy and something that I feel, is more me. And I went home. I went to my office. This is pretty funny. And I called up the Jesuits and I was like, I'm ready to enter. And they're like, who are you? I was like, well, I sent in an application 2 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we have a whole application process. And so I can tell you that story, but then I applied and I was in 6 months. And my friends, especially my Jewish friends, were like, just what are you doing?
Right.
I told my friend Bruce, I told Rob. Rob was very supportive.
Right.
This is all about Rob. He's going to love this.
I love Rob. Rob Schlackman.
I love Rob too.
I got to meet Rob Schlackman.
You love him. And so get this. So I tell him, he's very supportive.
Right.
And I said, I have to tell everybody else, like my friend Andy Schiff.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Andy Kellner. Who else was at that dinner? And someone else. And he goes, oh, I have to come to that dinner. I want to come to that dinner. I was like, well, he was in Boston, I think, at the time. We were doing it in New York. And promised me you'll let me go to the dinner.
Right.
So we went to La Brasserie. Remember
Oh,
that
yes,
place?
La Brasserie.
Best creme brulee in the city. Anyway, so I say to them, you'll love this. They're all at the table. Now, it was a little dramatic, but I said...
Okay, but how far into the dinner are you?
Oh, I know exactly where we just sat down.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I have a surprise for you. And it was Andy, and I can't remember the third person. It might have been Rob who came along.
Right. But it was okay.
So we're at dinner, and I say, I have a surprise for you. Big news. Guess. You're leaving GE. I was like, oh, that was easy.
Right.
And I said, they said, well, we knew you were going to do that. That was, we know you've been unhappy there. But you have to decide what you have to tell me what I'm going to do. Guess what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And they had all these guesses. And I said,
what were they?
Oh, I don't know. You're going to work for the Met or something.
Right,
You're going to do arts management or I don't know. I'm going to be a priest. And they were silent. And this is a great line. So the waiter comes, they're like silent.
Right.
My friends are never silent. And the waiter, because I think they were also like worried about offending me. Or
right.
The waiter comes over and says, do you need more time? And Andy Kellner says, we need a lot more time. And I hadn't really talked about it with anybody. And, who knows what a Jesuit priest is? No one knows what a Jesuit priest is. So I had to explain it to them. They were a little concerned and worried. And later I found out my friend Andy Schiff, who's now an attorney, a U.S. attorney.
Wow.
Yeah, he did really well for himself. He went home and looked up the word Jesuit in the dictionary. That's how much they
had no idea. And we had to look up things in the dictionary, kids. There was no Google.
There was no online. So
is he related to Adam Schiff?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So anyway, they were very surprised. And then I went through the application process, which is very long. My parents and my sister were very upset. I mean,
what?
Oh, yeah. Well, because,
they want grandchildren.
Well, they want grandchildren. You're going to be lonely. What are you even, what are the Jesuits?
Right.
Like, what is this like? Some people thought I was joining a cult.
What happened? Is this still going? Oh. Okay. It's still recording.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank God.
That's because of you, because you're closer to God.
It's a bracha.
I just don't know why this is. Okay, go ahead.
I said bracha.
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 Oh, I love it. Okay.
Do you know my favorite Yiddish word is, which I love to use all the time? Mishpacha.
Mishpacha. I love broigus.
What is broigus?
My mother used to, broigus is like you're like just angry and mad.
Wow.
Like, oh, well, she's broigus.
That's great.
I love that. Ungapachka. I love ungapachka.
What does that mean?
Like like too much stuff, like velvet couches, like, oh, it's ungapach. It's like completely too much,
I had to learn, let's see, there's goy, goyisha.
Yeah, goyisha, treif.
But then there's other like permutations of that.
Yes,
like the men, the women.
Right.
Anyway, so my parents and my sister were very upset because I think it was such a shock to them. And it took them a while to kind of get used to it. And I entered the Jesuits in August of 1988, and people were very surprised. And I can't blame them because I didn't tell them about it. One of my friends from GE, not a Jew, but what is he? He's UCC, Congregationalist.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice guy. He called me into his office.
Right.
He was very nice. He was like a year ahead of me. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm joining the Jesuits. And he said, well, where did this decision come from? And I was like, well, I've been unhappy and all this. And he said, well, have you really thought about this? And I said, yeah. And he said, I think you should see a psychologist. And I said, this is another great line. I am seeing a psychologist. And he said, I think you should see another psychologist.
Oh, my God.
Well, people, not too many people know priests. Certainly people don't know who the Jesuits are. I had to explain it to them. But what eventually...
I wonder, I don't think that happens with Jews when they... I think it's because Jews can get married and have kids. I think that's a different...
Maybe, but it's funny. I'll tell you, man, God bless them. I really love them. Rob's parents, Ellie and Jerry, were amazing. They came to my first vows, which were...
Oh, that is so...
It was. And can I tell you my favorite Ellie Schlackman story? I may have told you this, but
Ellie Schlackman.
It's pretty moving and pretty surprising. I might cry. I'm going to start to cry.
Oh.
So I go to the Holy Land a lot. Ding.
Yeah.
On pilgrimage. Actually, I'll tell you another Rob story. So Rob's son, Daniel, ding, was in the Maccabee games.
Yes, the Maccabee games,
so
yes.
he plays basketball.
Right.
So Rob calls me and says, so I've been to the Holy Land like 4 times. And Rob's like, I'm going, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be in Jerusalem. What should I see? Halfway through the conversation, he's like, this is so crazy. I'm asking my Jesuit priest friend about what I should see in Israel.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm happy to help you.
Yeah.
So get this. This is a true story. So every time I go to the Holy Land, ding, and I pray at the Wailing Wall, ding. With many Jewish people. Did you know there are a lot of Jewish people at the Wailing Wall?
No, I didn't know that.
I know. It's a surprise.
Because we never wail. Go ahead.
Like, this must be a very Jewish part of town.
And they love the women there, too. Ding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a whole other story. So every time I'm there, what I do is I pray for my Jewish friends. That's what I... Well, no, I mean, and I remember...
That's so beautiful.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
You know, and I remember them, and I just call them by name and all that. So... I went in and for some reason, I was praying, and I think she had been sick. I was praying for Ellie Schlackman, Rob's mother,
right,
at the Wailing Wall, like really in a kind of really intentional, intense way, I would say. As I'm leaving the Wailing Wall, I feel my phone buzz in my pocket, and I thought, well, I'm not going to answer it in the precinct,
right?
I'm not going to pick up my phone,
yeah.
So anyway, so I forget about it, and I'm walking by. I happen to be walking by myself. I'm with a big pilgrimage group, and I said I'm going to walk through the old. Have you been to Jerusalem?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm walking through the old city because it's so pretty, and so I get out of the old city. I'm near the Jaffa Gate, right?
Yes.
And ding, and I say, oh, I wonder who that was, right? So I look at the phone. It's Rob. And I get the voicemail, which is very unusual when you're overseas, like to get the voicemail. Okay, and Ellie has just died. And and I call him. Now, he doesn't know where I am. Rob doesn't know where I am. I call him. I get him, which is strange also. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, you're not going to believe this. I was just praying for her when you texted me. It was really kind of beautiful.
That's incredible.
And I'm writing a book about prayer, and I say that in this particular chapter, I use that example. And I say, one of the things about our experiences of God and prayer is that sometimes you can't explain what it is.
Right.
And I cannot explain. Not that I can't explain why it happened, but I guess what I mean is in an even deeper level, I can't even explain the emotions. It was like sad and beautiful and moving and funny and touching, and isn't that something?
And Bashert, it meant to be.
Yeah. And it was just so touching.
Oh, that's such a great story.
It is. And
like you were with her.
Yeah. And she was with me, and she's praying for me, and she was great. She's a very elegant woman.
Oh, I love Ellie Schlackman.
We call him Schlack.
Oh, I love her.
And so, so anyway, so they were always very supportive. And eventually my parents, themselves were obviously very supportive. And then all my friends got turned around, basically. They were like, oh, the Jesuits are so great, and they're the best. And, and now they're fine with it. Now they joke about it. I'll tell you another joke. When I was at Penn, I was out at a bar one night, and I was making, which I will not repeat, all these Jesus jokes, of which there are many. Yes. Yeah. And I got back. It was in September of 1978, and John Paul I had just died.
Oh.
And so my friends said, you killed him.
Oh, my God.
And so for the rest of my Jesuit life, even until now, when I took my first vows as a Jesuit, when I was ordained as a priest, when I took my final vows as a Jesuit, they will always say, do they know that you killed the Pope?
Did you go to confession and say you were doing Jesus jokes?
I did feel bad about it. I would never tell them today, but they still say that. They will still say,
funny. I'm going to say that.
Do they know about your killing John Paul I?
That's amazing.
Anyway, so I entered, and that was in 1988, and best decision I ever made.
And then you also got an MA in philosophy.
This is great. It's like, this is your life.
This is your life. I mean, you're so smart. Oh, shut up. Shaket Bavakasha.
I mean, it's not like I'm Albert Einstein.
Yeah. You're studying to become a Jesuit priest, and you get an MA. Oh, let me get an MA in philosophy.
I studied philosophy. I didn't get an MA.
It says you got an MA from Loyola University, Chicago.
It's very
1994, after you became a priest.
It's very complicated. I studied there in the graduate level. Jesuits didn't get degrees at that time. It's very complicated. But I studied graduate philosophy courses, yes, at Loyola Chicago.
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Just.
Just Kill Me Now.